And welcome back. So we are here for our third place match, and guess what? We get to see more rain, and it is Olson once again in the third place match. He forgot we're kind of doing that, so because there's a lot of money, people sponsored, so we got to make sure everybody gets a nice little even surprise here. But either way, the thing we're talking about the most is, of course, it's another rain team, Justin. So this time, let me run it down. It is Pelipper, not Danbrock, safety goggles, Scarf Urshifu as the rain, Iron Hands, everybody's favorite Pokemon, good old Amoonguss, you have Goldango, which is Terra Steel, which we don't see very often, and Chen Pao. So this is a different version of rain than a lot of other rain teams we've seen. So what do you think of this variation?
I think this variation is really cool because Scarf or Shifu, it kind of functions as your Swift Swim abuser, and you kind of have a broken ability as well as Unseen Fist and Surge Strikes. It's still boosted by Rain anyways, so you're still doing a bunch of damage you crit for every time. So I kind of like it in a sense where I don't know if it's better than Basket Legion, but it's really good in a sense. You can also have the Goldango here. I think Goldango and Rain's really nice, but like you said earlier, it's that Nasty Plot set and it's Terra Steel. Usually you see Terra Steel in the spec set, and I'm not sure how I feel on Nasty Plot sets because I like Protect and Defensive Terrors on Nasty Plot. But I mean, if you're going for damage, you go for damage. That's pretty cool. And
of course you do have fake out, and you do have redirection, and you do have there's a lot of little things, like kind of niche things you can do to protect it, but it is a little different. So I'm waiting to see if we get to see that on stream, because that one's just kind of like it's good in theory, I guess, but not as optimal as normal of a lot of the rest of the community would like to play it. So we have to wait and see. And of course we do know Olson is rocking the mostly balanced team, where it has Urshifu, it has Rillaboom, it has Heatran, it has Chien-Pao, Dragonite, and Fluttermane, of course. So all the tools you need for any matchup just kind of depends on how you play. So just looking at the teams just on paper before they get started, because they're doing team preview right now, what do you think will be like the determining factor of how this matchup goes?
I think that the most interesting part is that this Amoonguss that we have here, it's actually Mental Herb and not Rocky Helmet. So that the items here are almost essentially, we have two items that are not going to be really used here, because the Pelipper is not Damp Rock, it's actually Safety Goggles. And we can see on this team here, there's no Amoonguss for Rage Powder or Spore, and Amoonguss, well, Mental Herb, there's no Taunt. So we have two items that are not going to use at all, and that means Urshifu is going to have way more of a field day than did last time. And yeah, that's gonna be really interesting. I feel like that the Goldango here might be really interesting just because Dragonite can't E-speed it, and you only can. It's the Terra Steel might be a little tricky, just because I mean the Terra Steel is boosting his damage, but defensively it's still gonna get close combat. You're not with the Surgeon Strikes, so that might not be as ideal. But
as we transition, of course, into the leads here, so this is a trusty lead we've seen many a times. It is Iron Hands and Amoonguss versus Rilla and Chien-Pao. Now this is very interesting because one of the few mons that absolutely loves Chien-Pao is Iron Hands. You're gonna let me help do more damage? Oh, I love that. And honestly, it does not threaten by anything here. So
Terra, let's see here. I'm not opposed to this.
That's a bold way to do it. I mean, it can work. It's a little bold, but I'm interested.
Iron Hands cannot Drain Punch or Fake out the Chien-Pao, which you normally would love to do, but looks like okay, he might be doing it. The Terra Ghost is an okay play, just because you are not weak to Iron Hands, and that's pretty good at keeping your Sash pretty healthy. But this means you can have Terra on something like Dragonite, which you might like, and as we can see here, the switch here means you're not getting the damage you want, and that's Shifu's coming for free.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see the Terra is going to go ahead. He just absolutely decided to lock in because it is the better thing he chose to do here. Doesn't want to lose and take some potential damage or break the Sash here. So the good old Terra Ghost, a nice little cast with a friendly ghost on top of Chien-Pao there. As we do see these moves come out. So Fake Out does go into the Urshifu slot, so does get a little bit there. And Icicle Crash is going to actually do quite a bit of damage. Not as much as
the Iron
normal,
Hands
but
offer a Fake Out here and says Drain Punch to Rillaboom, and that's a lot of damage. That's boosted by your own Sword of Ruin. So
absolutely, gotta say that is a really good play. Opting to know, you know what, they could potentially protect or Terra here, and just opting to go for the Drain Punch in case I take damage into the Rilla slot, I think is a marvelous play there. So even though you did take a little bit of damage with the Fake, and of course the Icicle Crash, Urshifu relatively came in pretty scot-free. You will get, of course, some recovery with the grassy terrain, so not a bad turn all in all. And really not really liking that Drain Punch too much because now you're sitting at barely above
Yeah,
half.
Rillaboom is basically forced to swap out here, or you die into a U-turn or close combat. And this
Mm-hmm.
Urshifu here is Scarf, meaning you're faster than Chanpao, and I'm assuming that you're getting a free U-turn off on his Dragonite, and it's gonna be great positioning right here if this actually happens. And let's see.
Absolutely. You do
Yeah,
see
the
the U-turn come
U-turn,
out. Does
really
do quite a bit
good.
of damage. All it needs to do is just go ahead and proc there. And Wanderers come back in here. We could see potentially Amoonguss come back. I'm very interested if that will come back because I don't think you would normally Icicle Crash into that slot there. So you could potentially get
I would
another free
assume
switch in
Among Us
here.
is pretty free here, and Iron Hands can either break that sash
Absolutely.
or go in Chanpao. This is, I guess, assuming
Interesting.
that you're not getting targeted here, then this is okay play. But as we can see, yep, Iso Crash is going to Iron Hands instead.
Oh,
So
if this is a Drain
Chanpao's
Punch,
coming
this
in
is
pretty free.
fantastic.
Heavy
But
Slam
it's a
and the
heavy
Dragonite here.
slam.
This is not doing the most amount of damage because we know Dragonite is, not doing a lot. Taking a lot for Heavy Slam. I would assume,
Yeah.
honestly, Wild Charge would be kind of a crazy play there, too. We'll be able to chip down the Dragonite quite a bit. But Dragonite with no Terror is actually forced to either swap or sack itself because you're in range of an Ice move because you already burned your Terror so early.
Absolutely. And kind of an interesting way this kind of happened. I wasn't a Heavy Slam was something I think Drain Punch was completely free. You just keep spamming Drain Punch there, and any damage you take, you're kind of offset. We do see the Protect come out for the opposing Chien-Pao here, and Dragonite's kind of sitting here, but it's not doing much. E-Speed goes into the Iron Head. That does
Ooh.
quite a lot, and if it's double
And a
up, might be able to pick up the
double.
KO. And it
Yeah.
does. Iron Hand goes down, and a really good call opting. Like, I know what's important. Let me go ahead and take this out right now. Chien-Pao's it could threaten my Dragonite, but it's more important for me to get rid of the Iron Hands because it was doing a lot.
I think that was a pretty safe play, just because getting rid of Iron Hands allows your Urshifu to clean up late game, potentially. But you still have to worry about his Amoonguss, so it's not completely over. And Terra still has not been burnt. So we can see either a Terra Water here or a Terra Ghost potential in Chien-Pao.
Absolutely, taking it really slow and just opting to just play the long game. As we did see, of course, the turn one Terra it's been pretty effective so far, even though it hasn't been targeted by the Iron Hands, and Iron Hands is now gone. But a really good use of the Terra so far as we go into this next turn. Now, Among Us could potentially just go for a Spore here, or it could go for a Rage Powder. I mean, you kind of have a lot of options because your Chien-Pao is still kind of safe. It hasn't broken Sash yet. Is locked into E-Speed. As we do see, the Terra is going to come out right now. So we're interested to see if this is the Amoonguss Terra or is it the Chien-Pao, and it is the Amoonguss opting for that Terra Water.
Alive.
I'm telling you, very, very defensive Terra, and just gonna kind of be able to tank whatever comes in here. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is potential Rage Powder, but no, it is an E-Speed going into Chien-Pao, doing a ton of damage, and Rage Powder comes out. And you are going to be able to redirect whatever was going into your Chien-Pao with the opposing Chien-Pao, but overall, and a critical hit, that you don't like to see that at all. As the Ice Sprinter comes out and is going to get rid of the terrain and is also going to take out the Dragonite. So not a bad another crit, a crit for crit. So not bad. Don't really matter there. Yeah, absolutely.
A little,
but
Amoonguss, no.
Yeah, definitely.
No terrain means you're getting no recovery back, and that's a 3 Wood Hammer potentially here. And both Terras have been burnt.
Yeah, this is a very interesting spot. Just because the one thing that I think is most important here, your Chien-Pao is at full health this whole entire time. Since turn 1 has been sitting here doing a lot and it hasn't been touched. So that's kind of something I think that needs to be addressed because eventually it's going to come up. It's going to keep doing damage. It's going to keep the Sword of Ruin is just like sitting here, and as Olsson's potentially going to bring in Urshifu here. So we do know the Scarf Urshifu was in the back, but at this point, does it have enough sustainability to be able to kind of clean up? Because everything is getting chipped down really heavily right now.
Yeah, and Olsson still has pretty healthy mons, and being able to lock yourself in only one move is not really ideal in this situation because that's still a really healthy Chien-Pao and Urshifu on here. I can't see how he can break it necessarily, so it'd be really interesting to see.
Absolutely. We do see Woodhammer, our good old friend Rillaboom, still in the back. Could potentially swap in here and get the terrain up, but Urshifu is just really in a nice spot to potentially do something here. But the question is, are you going to go after the Amoonguss here? Because, Amoonguss is still threatening. Chien-Pao I don't think is much of a threat just because, I mean, it has barely any health left. So, like, even a Swift Wind will probably pick up a KO here. So, Amoonguss is right now kind of in danger, but you would need to kind of commit to it, though. And was that a timeout there?
No, he was clicking fast. So CCing the Amoonguss I think is a pretty smart play because it's boosted by Chien-Pao and that's killing. This is a dead Urshifu. This lands. And I mean, it will land, of course, but okay, Okay, let's see. Icicle Crash.
Icicle Crash comes out,
Yeah,
picks up the Chen Pao here.
Yep.
And if this is a close combat, I mean, you already took a little bit of damage on the incoming. You might pick up the KO here outright, and it'll be on Mungus versus the world. And that would not be a close combat. Will it be able to pick up? Absolutely. Not even close. Just because it did come in on, of course, the Fake Out and the Icicle Crash. So really, really well done there. Just putting himself in great optimal position. Chen Pao, Terran 1 Terra ended up working out. It's been doing amazing job here.
Yeah, it's fine. The Terra itself necessarily didn't really do anything, but just the pressure of Chen Pao plus Urshifu, and Rillaboom and Dragonite, and like it was just all this pressure was just too much, and the Iron Hands going down so early was really bad. You can never play too passive in front of Urshifu, and Chen Pao, and as we can see here, got punished greatly, and forcing your Terra on something like Amoonguss is never really ideal. Like we saw in the previous Rain team, we saw
we've seen that quite a bit, and it's backfired.
Yeah. And whenever we see a Terra and Amoonguss, you can get punished by it greatly. And because we've seen here, there wasn't really much ground to come back from that. So yeah.
That's true. I mean, like you said, the most important thing we were alluding to earlier was Iron Hands. Iron Hands was doing quite a bit, but the problem is, if it's kind of just Iron Hands you have to worry about, all it takes is one turn. We saw the double up, and then after that, it kind of was like a snowball effect. It kind of ran downhill, and there was not really any stopping it. So the question is, okay, next game, you can bring Iron Hands, but how do you make sure you surround it with enough where Iron Hands can have the sustainability? Because you don't want to have Amoonguss being forced to Terra, which we keep seeing, and unfortunately gets put in really tough situations.
Yeah.
So what on this team do you think can support Iron Hands enough? Because I think Iron Hands, I think we all can agree, can do really well into this matchup.
I'm thinking, like I said earlier, Gholdengo might be ideal, just because resisting that ice and that normal double up we saw earlier would be ideal. Gholdengo resists both, immune to that E speed, resisting that ice move, and you still keep that Terra Steel intact, which is cool, so you're not weak to any aura. The only downside of that is if there's the close combat from Urshifu, like we saw that late game, you'd be able to pick up your Terra Water Amoonguss, but you might not even have the Terra your Gholdengo here, it's well supported. Most Gholdengos are EV to take Sucker Punch from Chen Pao's, and as we can see here, there's no way you bring a Heat Random in a Rain team, and Flutter Mane hasn't came out one set. Actually, we might see Flutter Mane now. Seems collecting that. If Flutter Mane does come, then Gholdengo might be a little harder to use without Terra, but I'm thinking Gholdengo would be a great adjustment.
Same, definitely. I mean, the typing is just really well, and of course, if you get any if you call one turn correctly, especially even to maybe a defensive lead from Olsson or something where he was got to switch and you could potentially click that Nasty Plot. Once Nasty Plot goes up, that's when immediately you see red flags everywhere. That's when you know, okay, I need to do something immediately. It's so much pressure you have to deal with. So I'm waiting to see if that potentially is the adjustment here as we get into the leads. If Olsson, of course, can get away with this game, we'll come in with the third place. And we do see the lead of Chen Pao and Iron Hands versus Rilla and Chen Pao. So once again, Iron Hands is here putting on a lot of pressure. And of course, Chen Pao putting on pressure on this Rilla. So all in all, pretty good leads from both. And it all depends on what they think is going to happen this next turn. What do you think?
Well, this is... I actually like the Chen Pao here a lot better than the Amoonguss, because the Amoonguss felt really passive in a sense. It was easily abused. I believe that this is actually Terra Ice on the Chen Pao, so it's a little harder to that we can't get away with, of course, the turn one Terra Ghost we saw before, and that means it's a free Fake Out. Fake Out's pretty free in either Chen Pao or Iron Hands, because Iron Hands no Protect, and Chen Pao has no Terra Ghost to avoid it. So Chen Pao is either Force to Protect or Terra, potentially. If you want Terra to kill the Rillaboom, that'd be also really interesting, just because Terra Ice Spin, I'm pretty sure, kills it. And that makes the two Chen Paos here really interesting. We might see also another turn one Terra Ghost here to avoid the Fake Out, but it looks like we're seeing a Terra Fire here, which I think is really interesting versus a Rain team. But as we saw the last game, Rain wasn't even here. So the Terra Fire seems like a pretty safe play if you're calling no Pelipper in the back. So
absolutely.
I'm not opposed to it, but this still makes it weak to Urshifu. So I'm really hoping that Olsson has some kind of good pivoting for that, because that Rillaboom is really your only water resist if you include Dragonite as well. But that's weak to Chen Pao, so...
And we do see the Ice Spinner come out, go right into the Rilla, so great call there, opting for the Terra. Do get rid of Terrain, which, right now doesn't really play too much of a part. We do see the Icicle Crash go into the Iron Hands, doing quite a bit of damage here. And we do see a U-turn, so Chen Pao having to take a lot of damage here. Now, the question is, what comes in, and of course, what is the move of choice on the Iron Hands? If this is potentially Drain Punch, then all that damage is negated. If it's potentially going into the Urshifu, then you get a little bit of chip there. If it is a Dragonite, then of course, it's kind of just depending on where the targeting goes here. But what do you think is the optimal play here? Is it Dragonite or would it have been Urshifu?
I would say Dragonite is probably the right play because you already U-turn shift the Chien-Pao. We already know Chien-Pao's not Terra Go, so you're freely to E-Speed. And also, Drain Punch here is resisted by a Dragonite, so your Urshifu would have been take that. Also, if it would have been a really risky call, but if Tehran chose to Wild Charge that slot, you would have a dead Urshifu. So I think Dragonite was probably your safest play.
Absolutely. So only taking a little bit of damage, but overall you do win the damage exchange. Of course, Chien-Pao taking a lot. Iron Hands did take a lot, even though it did get a little bit of recovery from that Drain Punch. But this is an interesting spot because Dragonite kind of hits everything really hard, and then Chien-Pao, of course, with his Sash Shield attack, can just do a double up like we saw in Game 1. And I don't know how you can really avoid that too much. Of course, Chien-Pao can get off a lot of damage, but I mean, we saw how much E-Speed did last time. It's potentially in range now, so this is kind of interesting. Iron Hands does decide to leave, so I'm kind of interested in what comes in here. It is a Mungus, so this potentially is a protect.
This is actually a pretty good play here. This is a potentially dead Amoonguss.
And we do see the Terra. I'm kind of interested. Do you really? I don't know. That's a bold play, but I like it, and it may have worked out. We do, of course, the Terra Ice, which not normal.
I'm actually not so sure how I feel about Terra, just because.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessary here.
Yeah, you're not getting a whole lot of it, especially with Chien-Pao, and maybe he thought he was Terra Ghost or something. But the Terra Ice seemed a little interesting, just because I think you want to either preserve the Terra and either your Amoonguss in the back, or this is probably dead Amoonguss, so maybe it didn't matter.
Oh my goodness!
Just because that banned Aerial Ace with that Sword of Ruin, and yeah, this is looking not ideal.
Oh, that was tough. That was a tough turn, and honestly, I don't like that. That was a really tough turn because Amoonguss came in and you got a KO for free. You lost your Terra for free. I don't know you can necessarily bring this back because, you know, there's always a way, but it's really tough right now just because of, like, you know, Dragonite kind of can sit here and just and then so I don't know. Do you think there's a way out of this?
I don't know, because this is going to be a dead Urshifu as well with Aerial Ace, and with no Mystic Water, Chien-Pao's always taking this, and this is going to be a free hit on the Urshifu. Looks like Chien-Pao can get a hit off on Iron Hands, and we have a really big Mon advantage, and there's a potential flinch as well. And also, we know Dragon's always faster, and this Urshifu is gone. Yeah, it's looking really hard unless Iron hits to somehow get recovery back and can somehow 1v4, but it's not looking ideal.
Yeah, and then now you have to take extra recoil and doesn't even pick up the KO. Oh, that hurts. Yep. Oh, and just like that, with just one turn is all it takes, and Amoonguss just coming in for free, getting KO'd, and the Terra Ice, unfortunately, a little bit wasted there. And ladies and gentlemen, we have your third place, and it is going to be Olsson. So congratulations, and just a really, you know, it was a tough matchup. It felt kind of balanced, but as the game progressed, it just kind of was hard to find a positioning for Hands, and it was hard to find positioning for the Urshifu, the Scarf Urshifu. So as much as it felt like there could have been some leeway there, it just, the balance was just like, the tools were there and he used them optimally. It was perfect, really.
Yeah, I think it was a kind of tough matchup for Tehran just because Olsson always had the offense there, and a lot of his Terras were defensive, but they were still punished by all his mons at back, because the Terra Water is punished by Rillaboom, the Terra Grass on Iron Hands is punished by things like Ice Spinner, and there was not really a lot you could do for the Dragonite there, and the Terra Ice was a real interesting play, but I don't know if it mattered a whole lot, just because Olsson kind of felt like he was on the leading guard the whole time, just because the past play gets punished by your super aggressive mons, and you very limited switching to things like Aerial Ace, Ice Spinner, and all those moves together is just really hard switching to. So honestly, yeah.
I mean, because even in the long run, somehow the Chien-Pao stayed around with the Terra Ice. I mean, there was a Terra Fire Rilla just kind of chilling in the back too. So like, there's so many different like pivots where it's like, oh, I can just switch into this, I can switch into that, I can swap into this. Where it was just really, really difficult. So a really well played game 1 and 2, but just unfortunately the matchup was really difficult, especially Terra wise, like you were saying. So congratulations to Olsson, man. He put on a good show and came out on top in third place. And now there's only one more thing we have to find out, though: who's going to win first place and who's going to win second. Absolutely. So we actually have them waiting on standby. So we're going to take a quick 5 real quick. We're going to get them set up, get them ready to go. We're going to get these team sheets, and we're going to bring you the wide league finals, because I know everybody's been waiting for this over 2 days. So give us a couple minutes. Me and Justin will be right back, and we're going to get you that finals.
Catch you later.